helping us in the church. And tonight, who knows how it goes? I might end up asking a few questions. I can't stand every time social media is awesome. You get connected to hundreds of people and to me knowing everybody all over the world. And it seems like every time I get on the phone or the computer, it looks like I see someone else that has wandered away from the God. And that bothers me. It bothers me. None of us is above that. But I've made up my mind, I'm going to fight the good fight of faith. I'm going to stay with God. No matter what it takes, I'm going to stay with God. We're going to be dealing with one word tonight. This is about the plan. I don't know. Brother Jerome asked me if I thought this was the number one. No, I can't say this is the number one. This is just the one that I'm going to talk about tonight. I really don't know what would be the number one reason people walk away from the church. First of all, you don't walk away from the church and backslide overnight. You don't do it. It's a process. We've all stumbled, ain't we? We've all walked away, and we've had to get God back in our life. Thank God for a merciful God. Thank God for a loving God that will open his arms and bring us back in. But now that we are connected with the church and connected with God, I want us just to have a game plan. Why? What makes us tick, and why are we coming to church, and why are we going to fight the devil? Because I want to see what this thing looks like when it's all said and done. We're going to be dealing with one word, and that is discouragement. Is anybody that has never been battled with discouragement? If you are part of this clan that you have never been battled, you can be dismissed. I can't help you. Discouragement is real. Say, Brother Jones, how often do you think, or how do we need to encourage somebody if they're breathing? Need to. Discouragement is not the state of humiliation, whether we stumble or whether we fall. To us, it is not so much about getting messed up and getting your knees dirty and cause the devil cause you stumble, but the way to win this game is rising again and going to overcome discouragement. David in 1 Samuel chapter number 30 and verse number 6, and David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the soul of all the people were grieved, every man for his sons and his daughters. And David strengthened himself in the Lord. He encouraged himself. Let me tell you who you need. First of all, you know we can't make it out without God. But there's really one person you need to beat discouragement, and that's yourself. It's awesome when someone comes by and says, come on, you can make it. That's what we need to do as Christians. We need to make sure that we have our spiritual feelers out. If you're doing good and you sense someone else is discouraged, you should automatically be drawn to them. Now, I'm not talking about a pity party mentality. I don't like a pity party mentality where every time you turn around, someone's got to remove the pacifier, someone's got to come by every once in a while and just carry you up. I'm not talking about that mentality, but we do all get discouraged. And there is a devil that magnifies them times when we are discouraged. So the first thing that you do in the time of trouble, everybody has problems from time to time, but not everybody tries to solve their problems in the same way. What is the best way to defeat discouragement? I don't have all the answers. But I'm going to tell you, getting mad at God and getting mad at the church and walking out on the church is not the way to beat discouragement. One person in the Bible who had more than his share of trouble was King David. Have you ever read after him? For an example, he was pursued by King Saul. He barely escaped several assassination attempts. He had to spend much time hiding in the wilderness. His entire family was kidnapped at one occasion. His friends turned against him and even ready to kill him. He suffered the shame of having commit adultery and murder. His son Ammon raped his own daughter Tamar. His other son Absalom murdered Ammon, and Absalom led a revolt against his father. Absalom himself was killed, much of David's grief. I could go on and on and on about David. David did have a reason to be discouraged. Can you imagine when he come back to Ziklag and he looked and seen the smoking ruins that we read there in 1 Samuel chapter number 30, and all he looked and everything. He had been out at war. The enemy came in and stole his family, stole all the lady folks, and left his house and his tent in ruins. And the first thing he done, he asked the Lord, Lord, should I pursue? Should I recover? He asked for the linen ephod. But what stood out at me as I began to read, he encouraged himself. I want to preach to us that we can beat discouragement. And I hope that somewhere in the midst of our building, that on our lowest ebb and our longest trial, that somebody will stop by your way and encourage you. But if they do not, if there is not a team of people to come by and rub your back, and I pray that there is, but if not, I hope you can find a place between here and the altar and say, God, you're worth more than this. If I have to stand alone, you're the greatest thing that ever happened in my life. If I have to keep pursuing with no one else to help me out, I am going to encourage myself in the Lord. You've been too good to me to quit. You woke me up this morning. If all hell turns loose against me and everybody tries to stone me, David said, I'll run to the mountains and they will be a shield to me. Second Corinthians chapter number 2 and verse number 11, Brother Sean, get that. I don't want you to have to deal with all the D words all the time. Doom and depression, defeat, despair, wondering if anybody cares. We've all been there. Everybody's had them feelings. No one even cares about me. No one even cares about me at all. In my church knows what I'm going through. They don't understand my problems. Even the pastor himself don't understand why I'm going through this. So what am I going to do? I hope you can just encourage yourself for this night's over with. Get a relationship with God that you, yourself, and I is good enough. Sometimes you just got to have a good meeting. I talk to myself sometimes. Do you? I want an intelligent conversation sometimes, so I talk to myself. One old fella said it's not bad until you start answering your own questions. I've even done that. What's amazing, if this is on my mind today, and I was in Lowe's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, working on a job that hopefully God will allow me to help get through. And there's a man that works at Lowe's. Every time I come there, he's all the time picking. I don't know if he's, don't mean it disrespectfully seem like, but sometimes I wonder if he's 2 or 3 fries short or something. I don't know. But I've took time with him, and since we've been going in and out there every day, I talked to him. Somehow he must have did something wrong today, because I happened to be standing in line and I seen the general manager, the main guy, come over there. And evidently somebody had asked him for help or something, from what I could tell. And he told him he was with 2 or 3 other customers, and that lady got aggravated, and how they do, you know. She left there and went to the service desk, and I guess she was just causing a ruckus. So the manager went down to find the young man and began to talk to him. But what caught my attention, I could tell him, he was trying to explain to him, he was pushing 2 carts. He said, I told her if she'd just give me a little bit of time. I'm with 3 customers. And he's trying to explain himself, and you can tell the manager was kind of weighed in between the 2 opinions and wanting to make sure the customer was happy. So he was giving him the 2 what for and when. And really, when the gentleman was right, in my opinion, should have told that lady to go buy an apple and eat it or something. But when he walked off, what caught my eye, he was pushing them 2 carts, and he began to talk to himself. I would have loved to find out what he was saying. And I was just sitting there, he had them 2 carts. He had went out to the backyard and got the carts and was bringing them in, and he was going. He had stopped, and his hand was even moving. And I thought, I don't know if he has given that woman what he couldn't tell her, what he wanted to tell her. I don't know what he was saying. But he sure enough was talking to himself. And it went for, I guarantee you, 30 seconds as I watched him all the way down the aisle. When he put the 2 carts where they went, he just stopped and he just kept doing it. Who knows? He might have just been encouraging himself. I don't know. But there's times that I have to talk to myself. The devil does not want you to succeed in the church. He don't want you on the pew of the church. He wants to send discouragement your direction. He is good at that. Discouragement is not the state of humiliation. Whether we stumble or whether we fall, we must only think of rising again and staying on course and keep going for God. Don't let no bit of discouragement drive you away from the best thing in your life, and that is God and the house of God. To doubt and give in to discouragement is the sure step to failure. Remember me telling you last week, no one ever plans to fail, they just fail to plan. When you start out living for God, I'm going to tell you there's going to be days in your life that quitting looks good. You're going to look over the corner, you're going to see folks more blessed than you are. Their job pays more on. You're going to see hellions driving nicer cars than you got. And the first thing devil's going to tell you, look at there. You're supposed to be true and blue, and look at them. They got more money than you got. They got nicer home than you got. They got more free time than you got. Here you are trying to live for God, and you ain't got nothing. What you need to do is let the devil say, oh, no, you don't. You're wrong. You're looking through the wrong direction. They got the things that they deserve. That's just for a moment. I got something that goes beyond this veil of tears. I got something that goes beyond the church building. If I can stay put with God, I'm going to recover everything the devil has stole from me. But if I never recover it again, I'm going to encourage myself. If I can't get Brother Hal to encourage me, if I can't get Brother Jones to encourage me, or Brother Kyle to encourage me, I'm going to go to a prayer room, and me and myself and God, we're going to have a conversation. Hell can't stop really what God has started. You are to encourage yourself and let the devil know, I'm going to send notice to you, you ain't got enough arsenal to make me walk away from the church. With our circumstance, sometimes we just get ourselves in a mess. The devil comes to the saint in times of difficulties and tries to take advantage of his mind and devotion to God through sickness in your body. Anybody ever get discouraged sometimes when you're battling a sickness? When's it going to end, God? Downtrodden in our soul. Wayward children. Oh, number 4. Here's a one that really gets everybody. Financial problems. Does anybody get battled with that? Oh, God, how did I get myself in this mess? Situation, it comes at everybody. Financial distress, dreams that finally flickered out. Dangers of midlife crisis sometimes. Changes in the workplace or the loss of a job. Seems like God gets the blame for everything. When you get discouraged along the way, he will begin to spin a live tale to you, the devil was. He knows just when to turn it on with you. The moment you're right on the edge, you're teetering back and forth. You need a good prayer room, but the other part of you is, well, what's the use? You need a good touch from God. Really, you need somebody to come by your way. And I hope, we as humans, we should learn to make sure if we sense someone's down, please encourage them. But But I want to make a point. If no one ever shakes your hand, even though they should, you ought to realize I'm in it for more than that. If nobody stops and tries to understand you, just let them know, I don't need you to understand me. I wish you would, and I wish you would get on my side. But really all I need is God. Job said, I tried him on the left and I couldn't find him there. Looked for him on the right, I couldn't find him. He forward and backwards, he was nowhere to be found. But finally he said, he knows the way that I take. And when I am tried, I'm going to come forth. It's just a trying season. It's just a moment the devil's is attacking you and trying to get you to walk out to church and blame everything on the saints of God and blame everything on the preacher and everything on God. It's not God's fault you're going through a financial distress. It's not God's fault you're facing a situation. It might be a trying season in your life. And what you need to do is find a place and encourage yourself in the Lord. Everybody has problems from time to time. Could we just for a moment drop the facade? Not everybody's on Sunday Avenue all the time. I begin to ask God, what would be the antidote? What could we do to stop so many casualties in the church? What could we do? Could we just maybe spend more time? Maybe if I would have stopped by. Pastor's greatest danger when someone leaves the church, I start seeing them start drawing away from the church. It automatically, the devil comes to you. You could have done more. You could have done more. And you could have did this, and you're absolutely right. I don't think you can do enough. But we've reached a generation where people thrive on discouragement. I think they would rather live discouraged because they want people patting them on the back. They love a pity party. They love to stop by every now and then. They just like the feeling of being despondent and despair. I don't like it. I can't stand drama. I can't stand junk. My people. Sometimes you read Facebook and you wonder, my Lord, why? Some folks, what do you put all that stuff on there for? Get texts sometimes from people and try to make you feel little because of this and that. And they can't see the good that you do. They can't see the night you stay and the money you give and the time you spend and the hours you spend going with them here to the courtroom and going with them over there. All they go on is the discouraged mentality and point a finger at you. You could have did more. And I begin to think, what more could God have done? All you need to do is find a prayer room and find a place to pray and realize the devil is targeting you. 2 Corinthians chapter number 2, put it back on there, Brother Sean, verse number 11. Lest Satan should get advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. I think discouragement is one of the major keys that people are leaving the house of God. Offenses will come. But woe unto him that is offended. Now, I'm not preaching for us to just leave people alone and let them fight their own battles. We are our brother's keeper. It's time that we help one another. It's time that we encourage people. It's time we pick them up when they fall. It's time we push them on and don't drag them down. But I want you as saints of God to realize if no one's there when you stumble, jump up on your own and say, listen here, Jarrod Jones, you're not going down that road. You get up from there and you can recover everything that you lost. You think he comes to preachers just the same, pastors. Oh, look over there. Look at them. They ain't even having to work. Look at them. They ride around all day long. Look at their building. Oh my, look at their home. Look at the people they got. Evidently, you're not preaching right. Something's wrong with you. And you start saying, well, maybe you're right. If you listen to the spirit of discouragement very long, you'll believe every lie the devil sends at you. You'll start believing that no one loves you, and you're sitting in a church full of people that love you to death. You're sitting there in a group of people that'll do anything for you. But sometimes the battle that we face, I don't have all the answers. It's just a time in life that you've got to encourage yourself in the Lord. When you can't trust nobody else, trust yourself. That'll say, hey, let's go forward. Hey, let's get up from here. Don't let the enemy beat us through discouragement. Devil is a liar when he comes at you them ways. 2 Corinthians chapter number 4 and verse number 1. Discouragement simply means the loss of confidence. Just losing confidence. Discouragement has just zapped me of all of my confidence. My enthusiasm, he's just took it away from me. He has dispirited me, just kind of totally zapped every bit about everything of hope and dreams out of me. You got it up there, Brother Sean? Therefore, seeing we have this ministry, as we have received mercy, we faint not. It's not a time to get weary, church. Don't be weary in well-doing. For in due season you're going to reap if we faint not. You're going to make it through. God knows how to work in mysterious ways. Oh, it's easier when we're walking together, but there's times in your life that no one can help you. There ain't no one going to say the right word to you. The preacher ain't going to say the right word to you. Your neighbor ain't going to say the right word. It's just a battle that you're facing, but there is a God in heaven that you can go to and say, God, I can't take no more. I need some help. Oh, hell is coming against me. What do I do? David said, God, got to tell you, just get up. Just get up. David would always go write a psalm when he got discouraged. We need to start talking to ourselves. Letting the devil know that I'm in this thing for keeps. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to surrender. 2 Corinthians 14 and 16. 4 and 16. Can't read my own writing. For which cause we faint not, but though the outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. I believe this is where it comes from. The inward man. When you let the outward man, what it looks like, talk to you, and you ain't got much left on the inside to counteract that with God, you're in trouble. Apostle Paul said, I got a war in my members, warring against the law in my flesh. Trying to bring everything into captivity. The devil is warring against us every day that we live. Every time I see someone that's walking out, I don't get mad at them. I get mad at the devil. What did you sling at them that they swallowed hook, line, and sinker? I don't care what the devil offers you. Nothing will compare to the seat that you got with God. Ephesians chapter number 3 and verse number 13. Wherefore I desire that you faint not at my tribulations for you, which is your glory. Trying to let you to understand that you're going to have a battle to fight. But if you'll start out planning your day, say, hey, you're not going to get me, devil. Discouragement's not going to overtake me today. If my car breaks down, I'll call a cab. If the cab can't afford a cab, I'll sit here. God will send me sometime. But I'm not going to let the word discouragement talk me out of this thing. Not going to do it. Does anybody battle discouragement? Well, if I had to ask you an answer, Elder Brother Jones, what would be your idea Does the devil ever discourage you after you've been preaching 45 plus years? Does the devil discourage you? I don't really understand all the answers. Even sometimes when you try to stay prayed up on the highest height you can get, it seems like the devil knows just when to put something. You might not succumb to it, but there's a thought there. But the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God. What do we have? What is our plan? What's your plan in life? Are you going to listen to the devil? Are you even going to give him time of the day? Is he going to interfere with your walk with God? Or are you going to let him say, well, you don't need to go to church tonight. Might as well. The way you're feeling, you might as well just give up. No one cares about you. No one likes you. Matter of fact, you ain't nothing. No matter what. Oh, but Brother Jones, you just don't understand. You're right, we don't understand each other's feelings. That's our human part of us sometimes. You go through things that I don't go through. I go through things that you don't go through. But nothing that we face in life is worth leaving God for. I've had people come to counseling, but if you'll just listen to me, to my reasoning, and sometimes I will listen. I will always try to lend an ear. But after they get through spilling their guts, or I get through spilling my guts, there is nothing we said in that conversation that's worth walking away from God for. Self-condemnation kills people so much. If they go in, they decide this and that, and if they feel like they fail all of a sudden, they just, what's the use? And they go ahead and just walk all the way out with God. The town of Ziklag had been attacked and was burned by the Amalekites. And the woman and the children had been kidnapped, including his family. Naturally, David is distressed. But on top of this, the people are ready to kill him. Not only have they stole everything from him, his own people turned on him. You'd be surprised when trouble comes to people that are turned on you. I think it's just a trick of the enemy. They could be your best friend, all of a sudden hell break loose and they start gouging you too. Ain't nothing more worse than being gouged by somebody you thought was behind you, not was behind you helping you, but they was gouging you. How do you think David felt when finally they all wanted to kill him? The whole host wanted to stone him. So David began to encourage himself in the Lord. What does it mean to strengthen himself in the Lord? That's what the scripture said. He strengthened himself in the Lord. Have you ever went to the gym? Not many of us do. You go in there and you start, if you'll stay with it, not many of us do. We start well, but we don't end well. 5:30 bed feels better than 5:30 bench press. Feels a lot better than 5:30 walking track. McDonald's cheese biscuit sounds a lot better than a granola bar, one of them healthy things, while I'm walking around the block. I must have been. But when you really start strengthening yourself and working out, godly exercise profiteth a bunch, but natural exercise profiteth likewise. I believe he strengthened himself. I believe he began to pray in the Lord. He started out weak. He said, I got to have some strength here. And I'm going to promise you, the more you start encouraging yourself in the Lord, it's just like bench pressing naturally. Pretty soon you'll be able to just tell the devil, hey, I'm done. You fought with me the last time. You can't get me now. Get Psalm 73 and 17, Brother Sean, and 19. If I got it right, wrote down. Until I went into the sanctuary of God. Then understood I therein. Did y'all feel what we felt a little bit ago? Did y'all feel the divine presence of God even in song service? I believe we could have entered into some divine move of God's presence. We already felt great. There's something about the sanctuary. There's something about the house of God. There's something about just getting in His presence. I can walk in the door just broke, busted, and disgusted and in need of help. All hell is breaking loose, but just one day in your courts. Just one moment, just to be able to sing one song of Zion, just to be able to worship with good brethren and sisters and gathered together in heavenly places. What a feeling it does to be able to leave the house of God strengthened in the Lord. I might have came in weak. I might have come in just barely dragging myself because the cares of this life has just almost sucked all the oxygen left that I got in my Holy Ghost. But just 5 minutes in the prayer room, 5 minutes at the altar, just a moment in your presence, all of a sudden I feel spiritual strength begin to arise in my body. What are you doing? I'm encouraging myself. He thought enough of me to stop by this old boy's place when everybody don't like him. Everybody's turning against him. My job is messed up. My home's messed up. Everything I touch seems like it just falls apart. But the moment you get in God's presence, things begin to change. Have you ever just been so discouraged? Maybe I'm talking about things that just fit my life. But there's been times in my life that I was just so discouraged. My wife didn't know it. My children didn't know it. I put the smile on my face. I come to church. I shook hands. I spoke faith when I was living in doubt. There's times, but I've just went to my prayer closet home, went out to the barn, went out to the garage, or just go behind the house, and just all of a sudden, when everything else seemed like the world was caving in on me, and I just lift my hands. It's magical. I don't know what it is. It's magical. When you sincerely begin to lift your hands and say, God, I'm just in a mess. I can't handle much more. There's a feeling that comes up. Maybe it's just me, but all of a sudden, before I leave that moment of prayer, I've just felt like I could just run through a troop and jump a wall. It just takes a moment. It's not just I really believe what captivates people is because they dwell on that so long until the devil talks them out of going to that place to pray. And they'll spend a life of just prayerlessness. Coming to church and going home. Coming to church and going home. Until we can really grasp really what prayer really means. We're not there yet, church. There's nothing in this world that God cannot do. Our prayer, we cannot afford this. We cannot afford a dead prayer meeting. I know we come in tired. We come in there messed up. We come in there with problems. But prayer's where the source is at. Prayer's where we get our encouragement at. That's where the battle is won, in the battlefield of prayer. And when we all grasp this thing in our mentality, you don't have to have the preacher encourage you. You don't have to have the neighbor encourage you. You don't have to have your family members encourage you. If none of them do, there's a God that will be a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. He will secure you in a time of trouble. There ain't enough devils in hell to pry you away from the church. If you will stay encouraged with God. I'm not going to keep you long. Discouragement. I want to ask you, we've talked about discouragement tonight, but some of y'all have your own walk. What would be another key factor in life that drives people away from God? We're going to talk about them later on. I'm going to ask you a question. What would you say, Elder Brother Jones? What would be a key word to you? would you say, Brother Corman, if you had to make a choice in life, what would be the key word in your own life sometimes that battles you the most? Troubles, pressure. What's the use? Stress. Is life really worth all of these troubles? We'll start thinking. What would you say, Brother Gage? Rejection. You battle it. What would you say, Brother Ryan? Selfishness. What would you say, Brother Hal? There's a key factor somewhere. Whether you want to believe it or not, just look around. Look around. Not everybody that's walking away and just giving up is not bad people. There's an onslaught attack against the church. And everybody has this mentality that living for God, you walk all the time, you're walking in victory, you're stepping on rose petals. There's not a cloud in the sky, it's all sunshine, and boom, the first time you face a struggle, people just throw it. What would you say, Brother Steve? What about some of you young folks? Y'all's this new generation. What would you classify would be your struggle, Brother Jerome? Pride, slothfulness, Brother Caleb. Anger issues, boy, we all got them problems. What would you say, Brother Kyle? Scripture said if you don't shorten the days. Y'all read that scripture? The very elect will be deceived if possible. What is our plan to defeat this? I got a plan. First of all, every time I look at my family, that's my plan. There ain't enough discouragement in hell to get me to walk away, because if I walk away, my wife's liable to walk away. If my wife walks away, my children are liable to walk away. If my children walk away, my grandson's not going to make it. So what's your plan through hell and high waters? I'm staying with God. I'm gonna see what the end of this thing looks like. What would you say, Leonard? Leonard? You don't know. He was talking to me the other night about you get it mixed up with his nephew, ain't it? Grandson. He said, I don't understand. He said, that one just good, doing so good. Then just boom. All of a sudden. How can people just walk away from this? I got family members that's walked away. Let us stand. We're about done. That's walked away from God, but makes you want to understand what caused them to do this. Has anybody got any family members that you know personally has walked away from God? See this mouth right here? We can say things sometimes that if people's facing something that just totally destroy them. But what I'm trying to get us to understand, that's not right. But I'm trying to get us to have a plan in store, that if someone cuts me to the bone, that my plan already starts activating. I knew this was coming. Don't want to catch me surprised. I already put a plan in order. I knew someone was going to turn against me. I've weighed all my options out. bundle of mess. It just does. And my family alone, not just so much family, but friends that I've known, friends that I've been raised with, I've been around all of my life. Not one, not two, but I can think of hundreds of people that's walked away from God to never return. What can we do, church? What kind of plan? You know, sometimes in schools, in the tornado season, they'll have a plan. They'll have false calls. They'll tell the children, if this alarm goes off, you get to room A and room B. Every once in a while, they'll just do a plan. Everybody evacuate. Had someone ask me a while back, said, Brother Jones, since all this shooting's been going on, have you sat down and put a plan in action in case a shooter was to walk in your church? I said, no, not really. I guess I have just sat down. There's been things run through my mind, but I've really not put together a plan. I begin to think, people walking out on God, why can't we put together a plan? That plan is Jesus Christ. That when all hell breaks loose against me, weigh the options before you walk away from God. Sit down. You're right, Brother Kyle. Take time to sit down and say, me walking away from this, is this going to benefit me? Is this going to help me out? Is people going to like me better when I walk away from the church? Am I going to feel more security away from the church? We do hasty things. We just walk away so fast. In a split second, we make decisions that cost us for a lifetime. Simply because we think no one cares, but just encourage yourself in the Lord. Let's lift our hands and begin to magnify the Lord a little bit.